All right, Trevor, lots to discuss from the South Florida game. Certainly BYU's 4-0, which is the good news. But people are coming out of it feeling a little weird because this margin was close. So what were your greatest takeaways from Game 4 for BYU against South Florida?
Well, Jarom, first of all, what a great place to be when BYU fans are disappointed with the win, right? No, we should have blown them out by more. Well, the standards have changed, haven't they, externally? So I thought BYU did a fairly fantastic job. We had talked for a while about how the offense needed to support the defense better, about how last week they had way too many 3 and outs. They had periods of time, like the second period, or the first period and the third period, where they disappeared, right? The offense disappeared, and the defense kept them in the game, kept them going, kept setting them up with short fields. This was the game that the offense needed to carry the defense because of injury, and the offense did. They only punted once. They had no turnovers, except if you call a missed field goal a turnover. And the time they punted was a 6-play drive, so at least it wasn't 3 and out. So the offense was much more consistent. So that's very positive. The defense came out smoking like they normally do until they started to lose guys, and they lost a lot of guys. And you could see the effect of that, especially with a mobile quarterback like South Florida has, Timmy McClain, who was able to run around and extend plays and make the guys that were remaining have to run all over the place. And I think when you look at the way they fought through all that and still got the win, I think there's a lot to be proud of, even though it doesn't feel like they want it to feel.
So let's break that down. Let's start with the good. The offense, like you said, 21 points in that first quarter, a comfortable lead. BYU is yet to trail this season, which is really, really interesting through a third of the year. Baylor Romney steps in for the injured Jaron Hall. That was a bit of news before the game there. 20 of 25, 305 yards, 3 touchdowns, a pass rating of 222. 3 pass plays of 40-plus, including a little buddy ball to his brother Gunner, which was pretty fun. Baylor was pretty good.
Baylor was phenomenal. He is a starting quarterback, and that's such a luxury that BYU has. I mean, Baylor comes in, he knew how to run the offense. He was very calm. He knew where to go with the ball. And then he was accurate. He was just profoundly accurate. A lot of times when you complete 80%, which is what Baylor did in this game, it's because you're throwing at or near the line of scrimmage a lot. But like you said, he threw the ball down the field a lot. And my favorite one was to Puka Nacua on the right sideline. I mean, there was a defender right there with him. That ball had to drop in perfectly, and it did, even though Baylor was hit in the face as he threw, falling away from that hit, trying to lessen the impact. And it was still an accurate throw down the field. And so I think that Baylor Romney showed that he's a starting quarterback in a lot of schools in this country, if not most schools, including this one in terms of starting caliber. And that's a luxury that BYU has. When you got an injury, you can put in a guy that's not a drop-off.
So what does BYU do with that? Because you have 2 capable starters. I think we felt like this before the season. This has been confirmed now through 4 games. Jaron Hall's the guy, and I said earlier, Baylor Romney is not, QB2. He's QB 1.5. If there was a situation where you felt like you needed to put Baylor Romney in for whatever reason, I think BYU would feel pretty comfortable at this point. So what do you do with that? Because you played on teams where you literally had 3 NFL quarterbacks on the team.
Right. You're exactly right. Those quarterback rooms were outstanding. And this quarterback room is outstanding. And what BYU needs to do, I think, is start Jaron Hall and have Baylor ready. And that's the best thing. The question that BYU will have with this is not which quarterback to start necessarily. I think it's got to be Jaron Hall at this point. But I think it's how they handle Baylor Romney. Do they put him in and let him play a couple series a game? Do they hold him out unless Jaron's struggling? And that's another thing about Jaron. What if Jaron's struggling in a given game for whatever reason? Let's say the offense isn't going and they need a spark. They have the option to switch quarterbacks. Now, there's a psychological issue there that they'll have to address in advance because Jaron Hall would feel like he's benched if that happens, and kind of it would be the case. But they'd have to convince him, if they go with that plan, that it's okay. They're just looking for a spark, and Jaron is still the starting quarterback. So these are questions that the coaching staff will have to answer about how they want to go forward with these. Because if the offense does need a spark, they have a guy on the sideline that could give it a spark without necessarily making a switch in starting quarterback for the long term.
We're talking to ESPN's Trevor Matich, former BYU Cougar, of course, here on Matich Mondays. How much concern do you have about the BYU defense? Because there were a lot of injuries, there were a lot of 3s and 4s even getting into this game. BYU gives up 367 in yards. That's good number, 5.1 per play. That's fine. BYU was 8.9, by the way, but a season high allowed 27 points against South Florida. It's one-score game at the end. BYU had to ice it out with the drive.
I think the issue with the defense is just health, because when they were as healthy as they were going to be in this game at the beginning, they played great. And then all of a sudden, guys started getting hurt. Guys started getting helped off the field. Little guys on the back end that they needed to cover. Big guys up front that they need to be fresh. And as that happened and the game wore on, not only did they have fewer guys for the rotation, but they were now putting in guys at the bottom of the rotation that didn't have much experience. And then watching the game, it looked like some of those guys up front were just tired. I mean, that little quarterback would run around like crazy, and they'd run as hard as they could go, but it was like they were running through molasses sometimes because they just had to play too many snaps, or guys that weren't used to playing much at all were all of a sudden having to play a lot. And I think that's the issue. And that's not a question of talent. It's not a question of effort at all. It's just a question of health. And so, depending on who's healthy to come back and how their legs are against Utah State, I think will determine how well the BYU defense plays. But I'm not concerned about the defense based on the offensive numbers of USF. I'm only concerned about the health.
Yeah, good point. Trevor, BYU plays Utah State this week on Friday before General Conference. What was it like to lose to Utah State, Trev?
Jared, that's a great question. You'll have to ask somebody else, though, because in my 4 years, we were 4-0 against Utah and Utah State. So I have no idea what it's like to lose to a rival. And I would love to see BYU go up there and make it a sweep this year. But Utah State is tough, especially on the offensive passing game. I mean, they've been scoring a ton of points. They ran into a buzzsaw against Boise last week. Other than that, that passing game is smoking for the Aggies. And I think BYU's defense will be running around an awful lot next week. And it's another game where the offense is going to have to contribute, because this one might be the highest scoring game yet for the Cougars this year.
Ooh, okay. Looking forward to that Friday night. Any concern with Zach Wilson at this point, or is this with the Jets, or is this a product of the Jets' offensive line? One of the guards said, hey, he needs to get the ball out a little quicker. We've got a block, but he's got to get the ball out quicker. What are you seeing with Zach Wilson and the Jets?
Well, that's the thing that concerns me, is an offensive lineman shouldn't be saying that publicly. He should be saying that to Zach privately if he believes that. And at the same time, an offensive lineman shouldn't be pointing a finger at somebody else. If he says that we need to protect the ball better or protect the quarterback better, oh yeah, but it's quarterback's fault sometimes. That I don't listen to that guy. I don't care who that guy is. I don't listen to that guy. That's wrong. But at the same time, Zach is trying to make things happen. The Jets have had a difficult time to open the season. And so he's trying to force the ball into places that maybe he shouldn't force the ball into to make things happen to win a game. Same thing happened with Sam Darnold preceding Zach at the Jets, where they were losing. He had to try to make something happen. He took extra risks that he didn't want to take. Some of those risks went south. And so I think Zach's going to be fine. What he's learning now is that life in the big city, and I played for the Jets for a couple of years, it's the highs are enormously high. The lows are enormously low, and that town will pound you down like a whack-a-mole. But then when you come back up, they love you. They love you. So he's got to just exclude everything as best he can and take what's there. And I think if I were to give him advice on the offense, it would be don't try to go win the game. It would be win the play based on the design of the play. And if that calls for a check down, throw the check down. If you're in 2 minutes in the fourth quarter and you need to win, well, now you're taking risks. But for most of the game, don't try to do too much, because I think that's what has got him in trouble so far.
Trevor, let's finish with this. Lots of chaos nationally. There have been more teams in the top 25 losing through the first 4 weeks in the history of the AP poll, the most ever. It's been wild, right? Is Baylor the best team left on BYU's schedule right now at 4-0, climbing into the AP top 25 at 21 this week, with USC getting blown out by Oregon State? What?
Oregon State's on the rise, and USC is going to be up and down this year. USC is dangerous. When they're hot, they're really hot. But BYU's beat them in the recent past, and so I think the Cougars understand USC well. Baylor is, I think, a team that BYU fans don't understand very well. Baylor runs the ball exceptionally well. They've got one of the smartest defensive brain trusts in all of college football. They just beat 14th ranked Iowa State. 14th ranked team in the country. Well, BYU is in about that position, right? And so Baylor may be the best team that they face, but there are still a lot of tough outs. They still have Boise State. They still have a Washington State team with an offense that can get hot if BYU's defense isn't healthy. These are. I wouldn't say that this is a beat Baylor and you're undefeated situation, but Baylor may be the toughest out on this roster, or excuse me, on this schedule remaining.
Yeah, Abram Smith, 7.2 yards per carry for Baylor, as you mentioned. They are tough. Trevor, we appreciate the time, man. Enjoy General Conference weekend, a.k.a. football weekend and General Conference. But it's going to be a fun time up in Logan Friday. And, of course, tons of Cougars in the NFL doing good work as well. We appreciate the time, Trev.
Great. Thanks, Jaron.
ESPN's Trevor Matich, former BYU All-American. So he agrees with us, no, there's not a quarterback controversy. It's a good situation.
Yeah, not a problem. It is just a wealth of talent.